Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Caitanya-caritamrta of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Madhya Lila, chapter 12, text 135, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is a long purport. Please be attentive. It's often more difficult to be attentive when they're just reading, but it's very important. I consider this one of the most important purports in all of Srila Prabhupada's books for our spiritual advancement, practical. This is the chapter describing the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. Ei mato pura dwara age patha jato shakal shodhilo taha ke barni bekoto. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Prior to this, there's somewhat detailed description of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his associates, cleansed the Gundicha temple and the area around it with lots of sweeping and lots of water, and having cleansed it once, they cleansed it again, and everything was made spick and span, chaka-chak. So the purport, this is mostly taken from the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as are many of the purports in Sri Caitanya-caritamrta by Srila Prabhupada. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart as prescribed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Hridyantasto Bhadrani. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this statement. Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul, in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord Sri Krishna. Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions, but one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gundicha temple. The devotee therefore has to cleanse his heart just as the Lord cleansed the Gundicha temple. In this way one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds, or dust, in other words, anyabhilasha purna, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, anyabhilashita shunyang jnanakamadhyanaavritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, severe austerity and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our hearts unless our hearts are cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed, as stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Samsara bishanale diba nishi hiyajale, juraite na koinu upai. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to the higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus, the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karamis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma of fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bathe very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over its body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. The sufferings of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way these sufferings can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord confirms that He sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadhavo hridayang mahyang, sadhunang hridayang tvaham. Impersonal speculation, monism, merging into the existence of the Supreme, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit in our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as a way to begin their various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal of life is the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is. Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad-gita in this way: Tanahang dvishata kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipyam yajasram ashubhan asurishveva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. By his practical example, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault-finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position, jiva hingsa, envy of other living entities, nishedachar, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra, kama, desire for material gain, and puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example of pratishtasha, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar incarnation. The word jiva hingsha, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakar, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic, but all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulative principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instructions, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleaning. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain in the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religious activity. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. All these are like spots on clean cloth. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to cleanse all these away. By his practical activity, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu informed us how to cleanse our hearts. Once the heart is cleansed, we should invite Lord Sri Krishna to sit down, and we should observe the festival by distributing prasadam and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his personal behavior. Everyone who accepts the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. The Lord was personally chastising and praising individuals in the course of the cleaning, and those who are engaged as acharyas must learn from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu how to train devotees by personal example. The Lord was very pleased with those who could cleanse the temple by taking out undesirable things accumulated within. This is called anartha nivritti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. Thus the cleansing of the Gundicha Mandir was conducted by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Lord Sri Krishna and enable him to sit within the heart without disturbance. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shrishtham Manum Api Shachiputram Atra Surupam Rupam Tasya Grajamurupurim Maturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prabto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamnatosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tine Smarane Hoy Vigna Vinashan Anayashe Hoy Nijavan Chita Puran Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Living in America, you're probably less aware than devotees living in India that it's Rath Yatra season. There was just Rath Yatra, Jagannath Rath Yatra conducted in Atlanta, but the actual time of Rath Yatra is just coming up. Snan Yatra and then Rath Yatra. And the day before Jagannath Rath Yatra is Gundicha Marjan. It'd be good if in all our temples where we celebrate Rath Yatra, we also have Gundicha Marjan the day before. This cleaning of the Gundicha temple is a pastime of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I thought I'd read this as it's just coming up, it's this season. And it's also very instructive how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Acharya, wanted to clean the temple to welcome the Lord there, because Jagannath goes from his own temple to the Gundicha temple, and first it should be made clean. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we can see from this purport, has found in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activity of cleaning the Gundicha temple a metaphor for our own devotional life, the devotional life of everyone who aspires to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan personally. We can all join personally right now by chanting Hare Krishna, but to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, then a level of great purity is required. Interestingly, in this purport, I hadn't actually noticed it before. I read this so many times, but I didn't notice it before. But Srila Prabhupada herein states that people can chant Hare Krishna and be demons and go to hell. Because he says sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning, this is from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as a way to begin their various practices. And then after a few sentences, Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad-gita in this way, and then he quotes a verse from Gita about the envious demons who are thrown by Krishna into the demoniac species of life. Another point, this you can make a note for the mood and mission, maybe in the next edition. There are two. You were just looking at this as we were driving in that book about perspectives on welfare work. And Srila Prabhupada in 2 sentences summarizes about welfare work in this purport. The sufferings of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way these sufferings can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. So that summarizes that whole section. There's a chapter in the book, and it's just summarized in those 2 lines. The purport that Srila Prabhupada gives can be better appreciated by reading this section before it, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a great effort, bringing all his devotees to clean the temple, and he personally made sure that it was super clean. What does clean mean? There should not be even a speck of dust. Everything absolutely clean. Sometimes someone will clean the room and you see it's still all dust is there. Or you look behind a picture and then all dust falls out. Or you bring out some piece of furniture and you see there's dust there and it's not been cleaned in years. And spiders' webs here and there. So absolute cleanliness of the heart is required. In the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, if one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart as prescribed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Krishna is very kind. If we're not able to see him in the heart like the yogis, dhyana avastita tadgatena manasa pashanti yam yoginaha The yogis, they go through great austerities in meditation. They want to see the Lord in the heart, as Dhruva Maharaj did. By severe austerity and meditation, he was able to see the Lord in his heart. And then his meditation broke and he saw the Lord standing right in front of him. But we can't expect to do meditation and austerity at the level of Dhruva Maharaj. Not eating, first of all, hardly eating, just some leaves, and even that not daily. And then not even breathing, hardly breathing. So we can't do on that level. But Krishna is very kind, and we can see him, if not in our heart, in the deity form. And Jagannath comes out of his temple so that everyone can see him. Persons like myself who in this life are not born in Indian bodies can also in Puri see Jagannath when he comes outside his temple. That's on Snan Yatra is one time, and then again at the Rath Yatra, and then again at the Ulta Rath Yatra, the return Rath Yatra. So this time everyone can see, otherwise only Indians, and who knows whether they're Hindus, Muslims or whatever. I know one man from Bangladesh, Muslim, told me he'd been in the Jagannath temple. I can't go, but he went inside. They don't know he's a Muslim. But to actually see Jagannath, what do we see when we see Jagannath? Well, many people see a wooden statue. The British saw like that. Why are these stupid people worshipping a wooden statue? But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers see Pratima Nahatumi Shakhat Prajendrananda. You are not a statue. You are directly Vrajendranandana. This name Vrajendranandana comes up again and again in Caitanya-caritamrta. Krishna has so many names, but the name Vrajendranandana comes up again and again. Means Krishna, specifically Krishna in Vrindavan, and it's established in Sri Caitanya-caritamrta that Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Ekalesha Aditya Nandatmaja Rashika Sheka. It's established in the very beginning of Caitanya-caritamrta as essential for understanding who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And specifically, Krishna in Vrindavan is the topmost manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, Radha and Krishna. So it's established again and again, Swayam Bhagavan, the original form of the Lord, is Krishna. In general we may say Krishna, but particularly Krishna in Vrindavan. And that is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Jagannath. Others may see him in various ways. Some may see him as just a wooden idol. Some are not interested in seeing him at all. The people in Puri, they have this mixed up Mayavadi kind of conception that, well, however you want to see him, that's who he is. Which could be deduced from the Ye Yata Mang Prapadyante verse, that if you want him to be Shiva, he's Shiva. If you want him to be Ganesh, he's Ganesh. Whatever you want. For many years, it seems from history, he was worshipped by Buddhists as a manifestation of Buddha or whatever. But actually, who is Jagannath? He's the brother of Balaram and Subhadra, But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him as Brajendranandan, Krishna, Dvibhuj Murlida, two-handed form of the Lord, holding his flute. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give knowledge of Krishna in Vrindavan, and Krishna in Vrindavan means Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu implanted in the world the desire to know and love Krishna in Vrindavan. So it's presumed that anyone who gets this far in reading Caitanya-caritamrta, when they read this, if one wants to see Krishna situated in his heart, they'll be thinking, yeah, of course I want to see Krishna. Not just seated in my heart, but we want to see Krishna. We want to be with Krishna, live with Krishna, dance with Krishna. Of course, Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, don't try to see God, try to act in such a way that God, we want to see you. But definitely that desire there is to see him. Some religionists say that the desire to see God is wrong. You know that? You're looking surprised. But you know very well. You can't see God. God has no form. You can't see him. To have the idea that God has form is very sinful to even think like that. Shirk, Muslims say. You can't say that God has any form. They're very much opposed to this idea. It's a great sin, they think. Anyway, you're going to be chucked into hell for not being a Muslim, but if you're a Hindu, you're in more trouble because you think God has form. They're very much against the idea that God has form. But we know from Vedic scripture that indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead has names, forms, qualities, pastimes, and that he is most loving. And loving means personality. And he interacts with his devotees in love. So we're performing service to Krishna in our preliminary stage. And although we say, Mama Janmani Janmani Shvare Bhavatad Bhaktirahai Tuki Tvai, that even birth after birth, if you want me to remain in this material world, let me at least serve you. But it's not that we're desiring to... That statement doesn't mean that we don't want to be with Krishna. It means that we're prepared to accept his will, and if he doesn't want to bring us to him, or if he thinks we're not qualified, then whatever you say, whatever you want, whatever you... But devotees want to be with him. Adarshanan maramahatam karotu va. If you want to make me broken-hearted by not being present before me, that means you want to be with him, to serve him, not for personal sense gratification, but to serve him. So if we want to see him and be with him and serve him in the best possible way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches the heart has to be completely clean. And purports like this are quite challenging if we think that we have to be completely free from all material desires. It may seem almost impossible, but then Krishna can make everything possible, but we have to do our work also. There is the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the division in the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Vadagalai, Tengalai, and one of the major differences between them is the Marjara Nyaya and Markarta Nyaya. The Vadagalai thinks that we should be like monkeys. Does that make sense? We should be monkeys. Not monkeys jumping around in Vrindavan, but the example is given that just like the monkey holds on to the mother monkey as the mother monkey jumps around here and there. And the Marjara Nyaya by the Tengalai say that no, you surrender to Krishna, and then just like the cat picks up the kitten and carries the kitten here and there, so like that, we don't bother. We're fully confident he'll look after us. Their idea, it's something like within Christianity. You may have heard there's a theological debate over: do you just believe in God or do you have to do something? The path of faith and the path of works. And in born again Christianity, so you're born again, and then you don't have to do anything. Then you just say, okay, Jesus, I believe in you. And then you're saved. And that's it. You don't have to do anything more. If you think you have to do any work, that means you don't have full faith in God. That's what they say. So which situation is ours? Are we trying to hold on as the monkey jumps around, or do we just or we give ourselves to Krishna and then Krishna just looks after us? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said it's ours. We give another example. Someone throws a well, we're stuck in the well, someone throws a rope, we have to hold on to it, and then we'll get pulled up, which is actually closer to Markarta Nyaya, because we have to do our work also. So this having to do our own work while the mother monkey looks after the baby monkey, so having to hold on and do our own work also, that's applicable for us in the stage of sadhana. When we're sadhakas, we have to do something. And when we're fully perfect, then the Markarta Nyaya, then the Marjara Nyaya becomes applicable. We have to do something. We have to do our work. We say His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and sometimes devotees think that Srila Prabhupada is something like this concept of Jesus. You just believe in Him and He saves you. But believe in Him means you should follow His instructions. His Divine Grace means His grace, His mercy, as He gives us the instructions on how to become cleansed. We have to do our work also. Shinvatang, here this famous verse is quoted. Shinvatang swakata Krishna. We have to actually hear it. Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya. We have to daily apply ourselves to the process of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes devotees say that, well, if we've chanted Hare Krishna, then Prabhupada will save us. Whatever we do. It may be so. But that's not what Shastra or Prabhupada taught us. He gave us work to do. Save us, yes, but that may go on for many lives. Bahu janma kare jati shravan kirtan tabuta napai Krishna pade premadan. It may go on after many lives if we're not fully purified. So purification means we have to do a lot of work and clean even the smallest contaminations from our heart. What to speak of the biggest ones? The big ones are big. The desire for gross material enjoyment, in terms of material sense gratification, money, all these things. But there are subtle desires also. The example given in the purport is one we often see, going away to a solitary place so that people will praise you and you'll get name and fame. This example doesn't seem to be so much applicable at the present time. It was more applicable in Bengal and Vrindavan previously, where people may go away in some solitary place and just chant, and people then, others will come and think, oh, great devotee, like Haridas Thakur. But that's not so much nowadays. In our present Krishna conscious movement, if someone's a big preacher, that can be that name and fame contamination can come. It may be that someone does big preaching, big service, because they want recognition. But anyway, the point is that in so many ways, material desires can enter the heart in subtle ways, gross ways and subtle ways. For instance, someone may be very sincerely serving, very humbly serving, and devotees start to notice, and says, oh, very humble, and then others recognize, and then, oh, they recognize me for being humble. And then you were just doing it naturally previously, but then you try more and more to show I'm more humble. You don't even realize you're doing it. So you can have the pleasure of being praised. To counteract the desire for being praised and glorified, we hear of certain Vaishnavas, Babaji Vaishnavas, who used to do things so that people would criticize them. Deliberately they would do it. For instance, they just want to sit peacefully and chant, and people are coming to them for blessings and praising them for being great devotee, saying such a great devotee. So they may put some fish scales outside their kuti, their cottage. Because Bengalis, they like to eat fish, but Babajis aren't supposed to eat fish, saintly. So get some fish scales from the market, put it outside your kuti, and then people think you're eating fish, and then your reputation will go down. Or, they've also heard of this, you can hire a chandali, a low-class girl, to sit outside your kuti all day. And then people will think you're having a relationship with her, and they'll think he's useless. He's not. Or they won't want to come anyway because they don't want to be with low-class people, or whatever. They may go to great lengths to try to, just so they can live peacefully. And Gorky Shordas Babaji Maharaj wanted to chant in a latrine so that people wouldn't come and bother him, because latrine is a contaminated place. So he went there. So the devotees cleaned it all up for him, and he went and sat there and chanted. Going to great lengths to avoid that. But then his disciple, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who was also living like that for some time, he went to great lengths so that people would respect him. Driving in a car. It used to be that having a car in India was very prestigious. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that. When I first came in India in the 1970s, only very rich men had cars. And there was ambassador in Calcutta and Fiat in Bombay, and ambassadors also. But where I was in Calcutta side, there was only ambassadors, because that's where they make them, and just on the other side of the river, Hindustan Motors. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would drive in a car. That was in the 1920s, which even compared to the 1970s, No cars were made in India, they were imported from England, very costly. And what arrangement was there to have fuel? There weren't gas stations every few miles. I don't know how they even got the oil. They must have had. But he went in a car, he dressed like in finery, like a gentleman. When he was in the mart, just among his own disciples, he dressed very simply. But for public occasions, he dressed very finely with leather shoes. Why did he do that? So that people would respect him. And why did he want people to respect him? Because he wanted them to hear his message. Understanding that they weren't going to even begin to listen. They wouldn't be interested to listen if they thought he was just some ordinary man. Some people might listen. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was respected after he retired, and he lived like a Babaji, but people knew he'd had a long career as a successful, I don't know if they even had that concept at that time, which is deeply entered the Indian psyche of being successful. But he was a highly posted government servant who had become a Babaji. So some people, there was some description that some young men, probably they were boys, they went to see him. They'd heard such a respected man had become a Vaishnava Babaji, so they went to see him. And they asked him that, oh, can you tell us something about Krishna Nam? And he said, oh, you want to hear about Krishna Nam? You're so fortunate. And just contemplating that they want to hear about Krishna Nam, he just went into ecstasy. So it's a great dilemma. On the one hand, we want to be respected so that people will hear the message. On the other hand, we're supposed to be trinadapi sunichena and amanina, not desiring respect. So it's a great dilemma. To preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which we find among Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, Jare Dako Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amaragyai Guru Hayatara Edesh. Among all the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada quotes this along with the Hare Nama verse. Maybe these are the two most quoted verses we find in Caitanya-caritamrta. One to chant the holy names, and then another to preach and be a guru. Now, preaching at the present time is different prospect to what it was previously. Basically, it's the same thing. The message is the same, but the manner of deliverance may change. And then how far do you go? How many adjustments can you make without compromising the message, or without the message the message has to be very clear also. So these are all great dilemmas which the acharyas can negotiate. Srila Prabhupada, great world acharya, he wasn't recognized as such when he first came to the West. But gradually, as his movement expanded, he got aristocratic properties, and he would invite big people of the world to come, and he would preach to them. But his message was the same. His message didn't change. And then again in 1977, early 1977, when Srila Prabhupada had so many properties all over the world, he went and spent several weeks living in a mud hut in Orissa, in Bhubaneswara. And he would go in the field for passing, and water came from a tube well for bathing. Even a tube well in that part of the world at that time was high tech. Really, tube wells were not widespread. And they were in Bangladesh when I went there, because the UN had put tube wells. They actually did something. They put tube wells in almost every village. Out of the millions of dollars they collected for Bangladesh, actually there was something done there. So Srila Prabhupada demonstrated how one can live in this world and have all material facilities, but be totally detached. But it's not easy for neophyte devotees who are enjoined to take out every speck of dirt from the heart. Seems like a great challenge. It's a big endeavor. Out of all the devotees who were cleaning the temple, it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who collected more dust. He wanted everyone, when they were first cleaning, because it had been sitting there for 1 year, it seems, no one had cleansed it since the previous, or maybe even the previous year they didn't clean it. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he started cleaning, and we can understand he did it every year, but maybe prior to his coming it wasn't regularly cleansed like that. I don't know if it's still done. Maybe Gauriya Mat devotees. There are so many Gauriya Mats now in Puri. So many. So maybe they go there the day before Rath Yatra and clean it all thoroughly. The Gundicha temple, Mashiabari. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told all the devotees, when you're sweeping up, you make a little pile, or a big pile, of dust. And we'll see how much everyone has collected. And he himself cleaned more dust than everyone else put together. So if we ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we shouldn't ask him to do this service. When he wanted to do this service, the devotees told him, you shouldn't do this. It's not service fit for you. But if you want to do, that's one of your pastimes, you do. So we can pray to Krishna that you have promised, Hridyantasto bhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. You've told us in Bhagavatam, which is none different from you, that you will clean the heart of someone who listens to your messages. So please help me clean. I've got a clean-up job to do here. I'm asking you for some help. We can ask Krishna. He wants to do that. It's unfit that we should call Krishna to help us clean the heart, because the purpose of cleaning the heart is so that we can invite him to sit there on a perfectly cleansed throne. But Krishna himself is eager that he has to come in a place and he has to clean it himself so he can come. But we have to show some willingness for being cleansed. Otherwise, if we just try by ourselves to cleanse the heart, like the yogis or jnanis, we won't be able to do it. We have to take help from Krishna. And we have to do a lot of work ourselves also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see, how much have you collected? How much have you collected? How much have you collected? He would see. Then, after all the cleaning was over, they all went, took a bath, and took prasad, had a big kirtan, and the next day was Rath Yatra. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he experienced the ecstasy for which he came to this world, to taste the ecstasy of Radha feeling separation from Krishna. Mostly at the time when Uddhava came to Vrindavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mostly in that mood, but at Rath Yatra he was in the mood of Radha bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. He publicly exhibited such ecstasy, which usually he would do so only in the Gambhira, his room, at night with Srup Damodar and Ramananda Rai. But on Rath Yatra day, he was overcome with these feelings. So you can all read Caitanya-caritamrta. Caitanya-caritamrta nitta karo pan jaha hoite premananda bhakti tattva gyan. Everything is here in Caitanya-caritamrta. Krishna's Kaviraj, he enjoins us to daily drink the nectar of Caitanya-caritamrta, and in this way there will be premananda, the bliss of pure love of Krishna, and bhakti tattva gyan, knowledge of all the categories of devotional service. Talking about drinking, I'm over time for medicine, should have taken it at 7 o'clock. Do all of you have Caitanya-caritamrta in your home? Those of you who have homes? You all have. I couldn't do any service. I like to sell. Are you reading? You should read. Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand it through the lens of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? No protest. That wasn't a nasty lecture. I don't know. Sometimes I give a lecture and they say, no, that was so heavy. The purport was very heavy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your very kind association today. You mentioned that one of the biggest pitfalls nowadays for the preachers is pratishtha and becoming big preachers and famous. That point really, I found it very relevant to me. My question is, Maharaj, what internal assessment one should do before one becomes a preacher, or if one is doing prachar, what are some of the prerequisite criteria that one should have in order to perform the service of prachar?
Well, practically from the beginning, everyone or many become preachers in as much as we start to tell others what we're doing, even if we don't understand much about it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, another much quoted verse of Srila Prabhupada, Bharata bhumite hoila manusha janmaja janma shata kari karo para upaka. The idea is that we should make our life successful and do good for others. And we can't really do good for others unless we are good ourselves, which means we have to practice and preach. And again in Caitanya-caritamrta we have Sanatana Goswami telling Haridas Thakur that achar. What is that? Prachar kare keho na kare achar, achar kare keho na kare prachar, achar prachar name karaho dui karj tumi sarva guru tumi jagade arj. Sanatana Goswami tells Haridas Thakur, some people preach but they don't practice properly. And some people practice properly but they don't preach. But you, Haridas, do both. Therefore, you are the guru of everyone and the best devotee. So both things have to be there. Practice and preaching. Internal assessment, we have to see. Am I becoming purified? Take stock of ourselves. Go on with the process. have faith in the process. Sincerity is the great asset. Sincerity means the desire to be anyabhilashita shunya, which Srila Prabhupada discusses in this purport. The desire to be, anyabhilashita shunyata means the desire to be free from extraneous desires. So we should always work on that platform. The whole process is for purification. But if we get in the wrong groove, then we can go on for a long time without making tangible progress. Always dangerous. Kshurasiddhara, like the edge of a blade. So hearing discussions as we have in this purport, that will help us. Praying for mercy. And going on with the process. Anything else? Anything else you want to say about that?
Maharaj, if one has accepted some service, because at that time one was spiritually doing okay, but as one continues with the service, one has a spiritual fall down. But nobody knows about it. Everybody thinks you are a nice devotee. So how does one deal with that situation?
Spiritual fall down, it sounds like an event. That something just happens. But what are you talking about?
If one is losing taste for chanting, one is struggling with the four regulative principles, one is spiritually really sick. At that time, what to do?
Well, then it's good to reveal one's mind to someone who can help you. It can happen, does happen. Why should one lose taste? Can happen. Maya is always there. Dangerous world. Maya is always getting on our case. Maya is always attacking. And keep on pushing ourselves. There's no fixed formula. Krishna consciousness is a science, but it's such a science that we can't say for sure in any circumstance, because there's so many factors involved. This Richard Dawkins believes in absolute determinism, that there was a big bang and then everything exploded and then everything settled down into place, and then we got these bodies, and our thoughts and our consciousness is a product of various interactions of chemicals and forces, and therefore all our thoughts and all our actions, it's all predetermined from the way the Big Bang banged in the beginning, which would be very complex to work out all the mathematics for that, if it's true at all. But yeah, if you think about that, it seems impossible, doesn't it? Because everything's so complex. In the same way, our lives and our thoughts and our previous karmas, it's all very complex. We associate with different people. Someone may say something that touches something in our heart going back from some scar from a previous life, just which can be positive or negative. When Chintamani, the prostitute, said to Bilva Mangal, if you had as much attachment for Krishna as you had for me, it'd be a great devotee. Boom! That just touched him immediately. And he changed his life. It can work the other way also. That's more likely for neophyte devotees. When someone, he was coming, living with us for some time here in Atlanta. And then he heard from someone, some Christian preacher, that do not put faith in false prophets. And that, boom, that threw him out of Krishna consciousness. Oh, they're all false prophets, these Hare Krishna people. So we have to be very careful. There's a purification process. We have to apply ourselves to it. Pray for Krishna's mercy. There's no exact fixed formula. There is a formula: hearing, chanting, associating, all these things. But as Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad-gita purport, there can be accidents on the royal roads also. However much precaution you take that there won't be any road accidents, there will be. So we just have to go on praying, go on with the process. We're always vulnerable. As soon as we think we're safe, we're in trouble. Then?
Guru Maharaj, here Prabhupada writes, one often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity.
Yeah, it's almost as if Srila Prabhupada is referring to himself, because he several times said that his Guru Maharaj told him to preach, but Srila Prabhupada thought, let me make money first, and then we can preach. Money helps. If you're going to do a preaching mission, you need money for printing books, for establishing temples, for holding festivals, for distributing prasadam, for bribing Supreme Court judges, and so you may think that, let me get money first. I thought maybe Srila Prabhupada he's in a backhanded way referring to himself. Then?
And then he says, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, and then he explains this misunderstanding. So there's this tug of war between...
Bringing money for engagement in Krishna's service, not a bad thing, but we always have to be careful. Kanaka kamini, pratishta jamini. The two things. Money and women. These are the two perennial causes of fall down for sadhus. And then the other one, pratishta, the desire for prestige. That's a more subtle one. You have to be very careful.
Srila Prabhupada himself started businesses like Spiritual Sky Incense, which he later shut down.
But you didn't come to that section in the book yet, where it's talked about he opened it, but then he had the business going in the beginning, but then when the book distribution picked up, then Srila Prabhupada said we don't need any other business. But he also recommended restaurants. He wasn't against doing business, and so he encouraged some devotees to do business, but at the same time, he was always very afraid that they would succumb to the desires for wealth, which can become like an addiction, that people see money coming in and they can get more money and more money and more money, and then we forget what it's all meant for. So, anything else?
Maharaj, in today's purport and many of other Srila Prabhupada's purports, he talks about Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And obviously for a devotee, liberation is disgusting, and Artha is not so nice, and, sense gratification. But for a devotee, we're always encouraged to follow religious principles. And how do we understand that in context
Well, again, this is something which had more relevance to traditional Indian society, in which followers of Varnashram are aware of this Chatur Varga, the four goals of human life. Artha, what were you saying about money?
These three things: liberation, sense gratification, wealth. It seems like.
Yeah. We're also enjoined to follow dharma. Well, that's for everyone, yeah. Ultimately, when one comes to the fully realized platform, then one goes beyond dharma, beyond varnashram dharma. Until that time, the basic principles should be followed. How much to follow, to what extent, that we have to see in the modern age, how much we can follow. If we have to, we shouldn't take even water from sinful people, but all the water we take is from sinful people. We shouldn't see the faces of cow eaters, but you can't live in America without seeing it all the time. And even in India, how many of them, we don't know. Apart from Muslims, you go to Kerala, all the Muslims, all the Hindus, many of the Hindus eat beef also in Kerala. Maybe elsewhere also. We don't know. So, yeah, well, how much we should follow, we have to see. The injunction is a niyamagraha. We shouldn't neglect the rules, and we shouldn't be overly attached to the rules just because they're rules. There are many things can be adopted which would be helpful for devotees. Srila Prabhupada wanted to introduce this Vedic culture, would be very helpful. If we have to live according to some culture, and if we live according to Mleccha culture, it's not very conducive for living even as a human being. Dharma is meant for humans. Dharmena hina pashubhya naranam. Without dharma, a human is just like an animal. So, there's some question?
How does the tendency to feel the need to dovetail our desires to Krishna, how does it postpone or dilute the cleansing of the heart that Krishna is seated in our heart to help us do?
Well, if dovetailing is done properly, it shouldn't be an impediment in our advancement. It should help us in our advancement. But then, ultimately, one has to come to the stage of doing whatever Krishna wants. Krishna is satisfied if we serve him. Krishna told Arjuna, Savataman prachadya mamekam sharanam vraja, give up all other duties and just surrender to me. But then he engaged Arjuna according to his propensity as a kshatriya, as a fighter. So generally we should engage our propensity, but within the rules of dharma. Actually, people don't know. Here in America and in general all over the world, they have this idea of freedom. We used to have freedom. It's a big thing. Freedom. You should have to. But in Vedic culture, there's not much freedom for anyone. Vedic culture is criticized because women aren't given freedom, but practically no one's given freedom. You have to act according to dharma. Even among the chandalas, they have some kind of rules. But everyone is controlled by the Vedic injunctions. So acting according to our propensity, that's already taken care of within Varnashram Dharma. That becomes more applicable in present day life, contemporary society, where no one knows who they are, what they're supposed to be doing in the world. So yeah, that dovetailing shouldn't become an impediment in our devotional advancement. But if we insist, I'll only do this, I'll only do what I want to do in Krishna consciousness, then that goes against the principle of surrender. So both things should be there. do what we like for Krishna, but be prepared to do anything for Krishna. Then,
What does it look like to invite Krishna in to cleanse our heart?
what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it look like to do that, to allow Krishna to come in to cleanse our heart?
To allow Krishna into our heart?
To invite him into our heart, to cleanse our heart.
To invite him into our heart. What does it look like? You mean in a movie or?
Like, what does it mean to do that?
What does it mean? You can pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help me, purify me. We shouldn't be too keen to invite him into an unclean heart. We invite someone, please. We invite the big person, the governor of Georgia or whatever. Please come, and then bring him into a filthy place, him or her. That wouldn't be considered proper, even by worldly etiquette. So we can pray to Krishna. We're always praying to Krishna. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're praying to Krishna. Please engage me in your service. You can sing the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas also. There's so much instruction there in how the devotees are praying to Krishna. It's not that complicated to understand. Okay, Hare Krishna. You have a question? Is your hand going up? Okay.
You were mentioning we have many material desires in our heart, and when we get absorbed in service, we may become like mental when doing our service, and a devotee may be prone to forget who they're doing it for, themselves or Krishna, and get those material desires.
That's why it's good to Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya, hear the Bhagavatam daily and read Srila Prabhupada's books and keep us focused on why we're doing what we're doing. It's an all-inclusive package.
And when they're able to overcome that, we're able to remember Krishna even in that forgetfulness. So my question was, is forgetfulness and remembrance due to Krishna's mercy or Maya's influence? Or
Forgetfulness of Krishna is not Krishna's mercy. Remembrance of Krishna is Krishna's mercy. Okay, finished.